By request, this is another Find the Second video. I have another video where I explain the game. I will just try and concisely state it now. So this is a way of identifying chords, seventh chords, out of context. Obviously, we want you to learn to develop the ability to recognize them instantly by their sound, but this is a way to figure out a seventh chord out of context by breaking it down into steps. So when you hear a seventh chord played, like this, audiate it and arpeggiate it. Start from the bottom note and sing up, and sing each note in the chord, and keep going until you reach a second. In this case, I had to add a fifth note, so you have to imagine that all of the notes exist in every octave. And that's especially true when you don't have it in closed position like I just played. So if you had it in like that, you still have to imagine that the notes exist in every octave. And you go up the notes of the chord till you get to a second. When you get to the second, it tells you two things. It tells you what inversion you were in. It tells you the quality of the second, and it tells you where the root of the chord is. So the top of the second, that second is the seventh in inversion. And so when you hear the second, the top note of the second is the root of the chord. If it is a minor second, then you had a major seventh. If it's a major second, you had a minor seventh. And you can proceed to analyze the chord from there. Also, the location of that second tells you what inversion you were in. So if you had to go 5 notes up to get to the root of the chord, then you knew it was actually in root position. If you had this chord and you found it at the top of the chord, then you know it was 6/5. If you had this chord and it was right there in the middle of the chord, then you know it was a 4/3. If you had this chord and you heard right there at the bottom, then you know it was a 4/2. Okay, so that's how you can tell what inversion it was in. Great. Now we're gonna do, there's one chord where this won't work. It's this chord, or any other version of it. This is a seventh chord. Da, 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 da. But if you keep going, you don't find a second. And that's because the second is hidden. It's an augmented second, but it sounds to our ears probably like a minor third. And so if you go up 5 notes and you don't hear a second, and it sounds like train tracks, then you know it was a fully diminished seventh chord. And out of context, those are always going to be in root position because they are defined by the chords that surround them. So out of context, we're just going to say fully diminished 7, don't worry about what inversion it might be in. Now that I've rambled like that, here are some examples. Let's do this one. Da, 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 da. First of all, the second was at the bottom, and so we know it was 4/2. And then the top of the second is the root of the chord, so we'll say, what is this triad? It's a major triad with a minor seventh. So it was a dominant 4/2. We could also say major minor 4/2. We have a number of ways of describing this. In fact, you could even maybe say 5/4/2 as a shorthand. But let's call it a dominant 4/2 or a major minor 4/2 for clarity. Okay, here is another one. Da, 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 da. So there's our second, again at the bottom, so again we know 4/2. Da, da, so this is the root. Da, 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 it's a major triad with a major seventh. right? Because it was a minor second, that means that it was a major seventh. There is also only one of the chords that we're looking at right now that has a major seventh in it, and it is the major 7 chord. So major, major 7, or just major 7th chord. Here is another one. Da, 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 da. So the second was right there in the middle, so we know it's a 4/3 inversion. Da, 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 da. So this is the root. What is the quality of the triad? It's a minor triad with a minor 7th. So minor, minor, 4/3. Da, 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 da. We had to go to a 5th note to get to the root, but that means we know it's in root position, and hopefully you recognize this chord right away. Probably when you audiate it, you'll go sol, ti, re, fa is a dominant 7. But even without that, you could go da, 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 major triad with a minor 7th. So dominant 7 in root position, or major minor 7 in root position. Here is another one. Ooh, I don't do this very often. Da, 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 da. This one sounds so much like I feel pretty. And if you do that, you can think major 4/3. Anyway, sorry, let's play the game. Da, 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 there's the second. So it was in the middle, so we know it was a 4/3. And we know that here's the top of the second, so this is the root. What is the quality of the triad? Major triad with a major 7th. Because it was a minor second, it's a major 7th. Okay? Let's do another one. Da, 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 da. We had to go to a 5th note in order to get our second, so we know it was in root position. Da, da, da. That's a diminished triad with a minor 7th. So, half diminished root position. Let's look at another one. Da, 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 da. So the second was right there at the bottom. So it's a 4/2. And then the second tells us where the root of the chord is, which is right here. What's the quality of the triad? Major triad with a major 7th. So major, major, 4/2. Okay, another one. Da, 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 da. Again, this one can be deceptive to us, but if we play our game, we won't be deceived. Da, 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 da. There's the second. So we know it's a 6/5 because the second was at the top. And da, 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 da. So this is the root of the chord, even if you didn't hear it that way. So what's the quality of the triad? It's a major triad with a major 7th. Okay? Great. Let's try a very similar one. Again, this one is one that some of you may be liable to mishear. Da, 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 da. So you found your second. It's again at the top, so it's a 6/5. And even though it sounds like a major triad with an added 6, this is the root. So what is the quality of the triad? It's a minor triad with a minor 7. So it's a minor, minor 6/5. Great. Let's do one more. Da, 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 da. There again, the 6/5, it's a 6/5 because the second was at the top. Da, 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 da. And there's the second. It was a major second, so we know it's a minor 7th. And the top of the second is here, so this is the root triad, major triad with a minor seventh. So major minor 6/5 or dominant 6/5. I'm trying to think of which ones I haven't done yet, and I've really done most of them. So really the best thing to do if you want to practice this is get a friend and turn it into a game, and you can just enjoy it together. As with all things, if you approach it with joy, you'll learn more and it'll be more fun. And gosh, none of us are getting paid well enough to not have fun. Have fun practicing.